start again. It's a rich thing.
Hello everyone, and as many of you know, Outriders recently launched its pre-release demo. The demo shows off a very early section of the game, along with some of the game's systems. It offers a pretty good experience for a free demo, and definitely left me wanting to experience more of the game. The demo showed off a lot of the game's strengths, and I definitely expect the full game to be a fun looter shooter. But with that being said, I don't see Outriders being a quote-unquote Destiny killer like so many say. I also don't think the game will end up being a total failure like Anthem. In fact, I believe Outriders will be a better game than Destiny, but I don't think it should be considered a Destiny killer. I know that sounds kind of confusing, and I hope to explain my thoughts in this video. But before I get too far into this video, I want to give my Discord a small shout out. I'm trying to build up the server to a point we can have community game nights and other stuff like that. If that interests you at all, I highly encourage you to check out the Discord link below. But anyways, let's get back to Outriders. So, as I said, I really enjoyed the demo Outriders put out, and I honestly have enjoyed my time with the demo more than most Destiny content this year. But I don't see Outriders coming close to killing Destiny, and to fully explain why this is, I first want to give my thoughts on the Outriders demo. Basically, I think the Outriders demo does some things really good, other things decent enough, and a few things could use some improvements. Specifically, I really enjoyed the game's loot, build crafting, level design, and story. All of these aspects work together to create a really great experience. The builds that can be crafted just in the demo alone can create some super powerful combinations. I mean, everything from the skill tree to armor perks to weapon perks to character abilities all intertwine with each other to make your character the ultimate killing machine. For instance, I've gotten myself a gun that slows enemies, that combined with my turret which freezes enemies, allows me to create big buildups of slowed/frozen enemies which can be easily taken out by either my artillery strike ability or my explosive rounds assault rifle. And that build is nowhere near as crazy as I've seen other people make. There are builds for every playstyle of this game, and it really allows players to approach combat scenarios in different ways. And the level design plays into these different playstyles as well, because when you first enter an arena, there are a wide range of enemies with their sights all on you. They have different weapons, different tactics, and different powers. This allows players to change up their game plan every time they play through an area. Do you want to take out the enemies rushing you first? Do you want to take out the snipers first? Are you going to go flank to the right? Are you going to deploy a turret at the sniper's nest? And so many more questions can be applied to every encounter in this demo alone. And the best part of this variety is that it sometimes forces you to change up your strategy. As most players who have played through the demo will have realized, there's no one-size-fits-all strategy. If you want to succeed, especially on higher difficulties, you need to learn from your mistakes and adapt to different combat scenarios. This could be something as simple as changing out your weapon, or completely changing your attack strategy for a given arena. This allows for even the small 2.5 hour long demo to be replayed by people for several hours. And to build onto that point, players are able to play through this demo for hours on end because the game continues to make players feel rewarded. This is through players earning loot and overcoming increasing levels of difficulty. The difficulty in this game makes enemies more accurate, makes enemies smarter, and increases the amount of enemies. This all allows for an increased challenge, but from my experience it never felt unfair, and when I died it usually felt like I messed something up and didn't feel like the game screwed me over. And to reward players for overcoming harder and harder challenges, the loot you get scales up with the difficulty, which in turn allows repeat playthroughs to continue to feel rewarding for hours on end. I should mention though that after roughly 7 hours of casual play on a single class, I out-leveled and out-geared the content within this demo. But considering we only have access to the 5th out of 15 difficulties, and are only playing content in the beginning area against the very first enemies, I consider that more than enough playtime for the content we received. Anyways though, what ties all of these good aspects of the game together is the world and story you experience these systems in. Now, at first glance the story may seem generic, like oh no, humanity screwed the world and they have to survive in a post-apocalyptic world, That's only been done in like every looter shooter ever. But Outriders' story feels different, and that's because this story and the world it's in has nuance. And most importantly, this nuance is portrayed through good in-game storytelling. Just through this demo alone, I found the story more engaging and interesting than any other looter shooter I've played in recent years, aside from some of the Borderlands games. This is because you actually learn about the world and story through the game, and because you are an actual character, not just some shallow husk who's just sitting there giving you a glimpse in the world. Just through my first playthrough of the demo, I was able to get a broad understanding of the story, while also picking up on some smaller details which really enhance the world. For instance, you start the game off exploring this new planet for humanity to set up a new colony. Through dialogue with other characters, we learn humanity screwed up Earth really bad, and our ship left to escape the horror of the planet. We also learn that our character was a mercenary who was not the first choice for the job. We then learn that our ship lost contact with Earth 15 years after we left, meaning our ship was all that remained of humanity. This leaves our character feeling somewhat guilty for being able to escape the planet, but also feels he has the fate of humanity on his shoulders as he charts out this new world for them. This makes it even worse when the planet goes to shit. Our character just spent 80-something years on a ship to this new planet which upon landing appeared to be a new paradise. But within just the first day, almost everything that can go wrong does go wrong, and when our character wakes up from cryosleep in another 30 years, this new planet is even more of a hellhole than Earth used to be. This all gives our character depth. This gives the world depth, and it allows us to form connections to people and parts of the story. Most importantly though, it accomplishes all of this through in-game storytelling without the use of a codex, such as Destiny's lore tab to tell us the most important parts of the story. The game definitely has a lore tab, and uses it in a useful manner. It adds additional information to stuff we already learn, and builds upon it without having to carry the majority of storytelling like Destiny's lore tab does. So if Outriders doesn't carry most of the story through lore tabs like some other looter shooters, how does it carry its story? Well, it's through cutscenes, dialogue, and just plain environmental storytelling, which I consider to be the best form of in-game storytelling. The beginning prologue section of the demo heavily relies on cutscenes to carry the storytelling. While I can understand people's complaints of this beginning section being too heavy on the cutscenes, I can understand why they are used. The prologue needs to communicate a lot of information to us regarding this brand new game and universe, and since this is not a live game, they need to have all that information readily available to us from the start, and I think they accomplish this task pretty good. The different characters all act unique and offer different chemistry between each other, and it allows you to understand what is happening without needing to read follow-up entries in the lore tab like some other games such as Destiny. But if you do decide to read follow-up entries, you learn information that builds and adds to the story, but was not necessary for the moment at hand. In addition to this though, Outriders also utilizes environmental storytelling to its advantage. For instance, we not only hear that the front lines of Rift Town get blown apart, we actually see the carnage for ourselves. Mangled bodies are strewn everywhere, bunkers are blown apart at every turn, and the land is covered in deep trenches from the explosions. All of these storytelling techniques help take what is a generic premise on the surface and help expand it to a truly interesting story. So, why then, with all of these things that I praise this game for, do I not think it won't even come close to killing Destiny? Well, simply it's because of the differences between the games. Destiny 2 is a first-person game with an emphasis on live service elements, such as seasonal events. Destiny 2 offers a lot more MMO-esque elements, such as bounties and shared world spaces. Destiny 2 also offers a rather extensive PvP aspect of the game, which is really unique to Destiny in terms of looter shooters. These are all things which set Destiny apart from Outriders. While these differences may not seem very drastic to some people, I can promise they are more than enough to turn off a large amount of Destiny players from Outriders. I mean, think about all of the PvP mains in Destiny. Think about all of the YouTubers who thrive off of Destiny's constant updates and changes. And think about all of the people who simply won't even touch Outriders because it's in third person instead of first. All of these differences don't by any means make Outriders a worse game than Destiny. It just makes it a different game with different experiences. Destiny 2 is a looter shooter that heavily leans on the more casual side of the genre, while also taking some aspects from MMOs, which lead to a more disjointed experience, but also a more open one. Outriders, on the other hand, is a looter shooter that I would consider slightly more in-depth than Destiny, with a greater story focus, and one that leans more on single-player-esque looter shooters such as Borderlands instead of MMOs. This leads to Outriders feeling like a more closely knit experience, which allows for some aspects of the game such as storytelling to shine, while the storytelling in Destiny kinda sucks. Similarly, Outriders' lack of PvP means there is a much smaller emphasis on the overall balancing of weapons and abilities, which allows for much more powerful loot and builds than Destiny. These differences, as I said, don't make one objectively better than the other, but allow for both to offer their own experience. For instance, games like Squad and Insurgency both offer modern tactical first-person gameplay, but they both have enough differences that allow each to entertain their own audience. I think one of the biggest problems within the looter shooter genre is that there is a lack of diversity within games. Really, aside from Borderlands and Destiny, there aren't too many high-quality looter shooters. This has caused a lot of people to be forced to settle for Destiny when it really isn't the game they're looking for. While Outriders won't be the game for all of these players, I think there's more than enough potential fans that the game will definitely have a good-sized player base. And this will especially be the case if Outriders continues to play into its differences from Destiny, because its differences are what lead to its best features. And even for me, a person who strongly enjoys Outriders, I don't see Outriders completely killing Destiny for me. Both of the games scratch different itches and are each enjoyable in their own way. But contrary to what this video may suggest, Outriders is not a perfect game. While I enjoy a lot of what the game has to offer, it has some rather big issues, namely on the technical side. The co-op performance has been pretty bad from my experience, and for my friends and I, it has often been downright unplayable. Hopefully this can be fixed by the game's launch, because playing as co-op is some of the most fun experiences I've had within the game, and I would hate to be unable to play with my friends for the game's full release. And my other main complaint with the Outriders demo is the current optimal way of farming for legendary weapons. Because as of right now, it just has us killing the same enemy over and over and over again, so hopefully the developers can find a way to create a more fun and engaging loot farm than just killing this one captain over and over again. But that's really all I have to say regarding this topic, and I will probably be picking up Outriders when it launches, so expect to see some more Outriders content on this channel. So if you want to know when that content is out, please like and subscribe so you don't miss my next upload, and until next time, goodbye.